Hi community of awesome, I'm Ava J, this is Bookish Pixie, and today's topic is making villains awesome. So as many of you who follow me on Twitter probably know, I've been watching Vampire Diaries and totally loving it. Now before I go on, if you haven't seen Vampire Diaries and you think you might watch it, or you're in the middle of watching it but haven't seen up to the end of season 3, then go no further, there'll be spoilers in this vlog. Now what really surprised me about the series thus far hasn't been the sexy Salvatore brothers, it's been Klaus. What I found interesting about Klaus is initially when we first meet him, we hate him because he's a horrible person and he kills innocent people and he kills people we care about and causes major problems for the Salvatore brothers and Elena. A little after we've been introduced to Klaus, we start to learn more about him and his background. And as we start to get to know him, we realize that really he's just kind of lonely. Now I know that is no excuse for doing the things he did, and I am in no way going to try to justify the stuff he did. But when they started showing us more about his background and his motivation, we start to kind of understand him. Now even at that point, after I kind of understood his motivations, I still was pretty eager to see him die. But then we learn that he used to be friends with Stefan. And we learn that Klaus really just wants to have that old friend back, even though their friendship was totally twisted and they did terrible things together. But to Klaus, he just wanted to have his friend back because again, he's lonely. Now, when we learned that, I still wasn't really rooting for him. I mean, he wants to be friends, fine, but he still did some pretty terrible things. But then we learn more about him and we find that he actually cares very much for his family. He wants to be a family again. But the problem is, his family kinda hates him. At that point, I still didn't quite feel totally bad for him, but I mean, the feels were starting. What sealed it for me was his crush on Caroline. Suddenly we see that he has genuine feelings and he hasn't turned off his emotions like he tries to make everyone think he has. And he actually kinda cares for people. Around the same time that we find that Klaus is starting to have feelings for Caroline, he starts to reveal more about himself. As it turns out, he's a great artist and he draws people really well. And he starts doing some really nice things for Caroline, even though she hates his guts because, as we've already established, he's a terrible person. But he's a terrible person who's starting to show he does have some humanity. And that right there sealed it for me that suddenly I couldn't hate him as much as I wanted to. Yes, he's a murderer, and yes, he did some terrible things, and yes, he continues to manipulate and use people and be terrible, but we understand why. Or at least we understand what made him that way. This to me was a pretty cool transformation because we go from completely hating a character to actually kind of starting to like him and maybe even not wanting to see him dead. The key to making readers or viewers really connect with our villains is to make them sympathetic. If you can bring your villain to a point where the readers understand his motivations and maybe even start to like him for qualities totally unrelated to his dark evil side, then you've got a pretty good villain. Because then not only are we intimidated by his formidability and his ability to ruin our protagonists, but we also start to understand him, and that to me is important because then you've saved your villain from becoming the stroking the goatee, twirling the mustache, death ray, fire everywhere villain, and you've made him someone that we actually genuinely care about. And even if we still want to see him defeated, which we usually do, it makes things a little less black and white. And that to me is not only more realistic, but infinitely more awesome. Also, book recs, these have great villains. One of my favorite villains ever is in this series, and the new one, Ruin and Rising, is coming out soon. Okay, I guess that's it.